There's always a delay. It's weird.
Fantastic. And we're live. Um, Thank you everybody for joining on this episode. We have a special guest filling in for Mike this week. We have Kalynka from the HomeHappy team, and we were just chatting a little bit behind the scenes, getting to know her a little bit. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is it's a pleasure to be here, and I was so excited to join. So thank you so much.
That's awesome. Um, so I guess before we kick things off, one of the things that we talked about that Vishall did a very good job of summarizing before we hit record is the reason we started doing this was we have a lot of behind the scenes chats where we share great information. We have great stories of challenges that we've had, clients had, that we've overcome, that we've helped them with. And nobody ever records these conversations or shares them. And our clients, our potential clients, your future clients, they never get access to these types of casual conversations where, like there's no slides, there's no PowerPoint presentations, just us chatting. And we wanted to be able to bring that content and that context to the clients and, bring in different professionals to share in our conversations, because that's kind of one of the great things about the way that we've set ourselves up, as Kalynka and I were just talking about, is I'm at the phase of my career where I really enjoy collaboration versus just competition. And so the backstory is, Vishal and I worked side by side in parallel for years, but never worked together. We weren't working against each
Wow.
other, but we never worked together either. And so last year we decided we should work together, and we created that, 1 + 1 = 3 type of energy. And then now we've started working a lot more with the HomeHappy team, and we really enjoy the energy, we enjoy the synergy, and so we're really happy to have you on here and kind of talk about some things.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. It's exciting.
It's funny,
Fantastic.
to Tyson's point, he tried to friend zone me, but I snuck it out there. He tried to friend zone me for too long, and I was like, you know what? You're gonna be my business partner instead now. And I just kept knocking on that door until he said yeah. But I've always preferred collaboration. Like I've just have a sports background. I said like my early stages of my life, and still now Tyson already knows. Every time he calls me, he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm at this tournament or I'm playing this sport." But I'm a very sports heavy person. That's what I enjoy with my free time. And I've always enjoyed team sports instead of individual sports. I never actually realized that until you were just doing that great synopsis of kind of where we're at now. And I was like, yeah, like besides golf, which is just I like to hang out with my friends, so it's kind of individual sport, but I mostly do it for a social aspect. But I don't really play individual sports. I've never played individual sports. I've always been a team sports guy. So it just kind of makes sense that yeah, you try to friend zone me, Tyson, and I knocked that door down. So here we are. So even if you get sick of me, you can't get rid of me. So that's it's
Yeah, that's
perfect.
right.
And
I think
it's honestly it's such. Sorry, go ahead.
it's a mindset, right?
Very
So
much.
I was telling Tyson earlier, it's like if you grow, I grow, and if I grow, you grow. And so having that mindset is really what makes a team together, being able to pick up the other and if you need to, and vice versa, someone helping you. So yeah, it really boils down to having that mindset.
And I think a lot of people, that was beautifully said. It's the mindset of, if you win, I win. But a lot of people hear that, but I think the real magic is when you experience it for the first time.
A
Uh,
million
and-
percent.
yeah, and I've had that with a bunch of different people. I've had that with the Home Happy team. I've had that with Tyson. And I remember specifically with Tyson when I was so overwhelmed, studying for my exam that was upcoming, and I had uh, a trip planned to Europe, and there's just a bunch of stuff all happening at once. And I was so stressed, and it was just a quick phone call when Tyson called me. He's like, "Hey, he's like, just so you know, he's like, there's a lot of stuff going on, but I can help you. Like, what do you need off your
Wow,
plate? What can I help you with?"
such a
And
difference.
I was like,
Mhm.
"Man, Tyson's the best." Right then, I was like, "This is the right decision." And everything we've done over the last hasn't even been a year, I don't think.
Yeah,
I
it's
got
almost a
we
year, but not
It's
quite.
almost a year. We gotta do an
That's
anniversary party,
amazing.
but yeah, it hasn't been a year. But when we, go speak at UPC together, when we go host these events for all the first year physicians, when we go to these charity events, everything has been so much more fun with a team around, and with
Absolutely.
great people around. And I'm excited. One of the best things about the virtual world is Kalink is actually coming to us from Kelowna, which is amazing. So I'm excited when I get a chance to come down to Kelowna. It'll be nice. My wife and my dog, we enjoy Kelowna very, very much. It's just It's a
I
land of
get the
beautiful
good
energy.
weather, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, you should go to better weather, right? So I'm excited though. It's gonna be one of those things that it's nice to have those collaborative partnerships all over the place. So when we go to Kelowna, it's nice. Like, yeah, it's, cool. Let's all hang out. Let's connect. Let's talk shop and all that kind of stuff. And in the meantime, we can just very easily jump on virtual and kind of go from here. So um, I forgot what our main point was. I remember, Tyson, when you're like, Vishal said this very well before we started recording. I was like, what did I say? Well, I panicked. I thought you were going to put me on the spot. I'm like, I don't remember what I said. But let's talk about like the Home Happy team. Kalynka, like you've kind of alluded that you're part of the team. You enjoy the team. Like,
Yes, I
what
absolutely
is it that
love
you
the
enjoy?
team. Yeah, I think the whole point of being a team, I remember when I first spoke to Mike about joining the team, I had a meeting with him and I'm like, Mike, I need to see you. He's like, okay. We weren't even working together yet. And we sat at a coffee shop in front of each other. He's like, so I'm like, I want to work with you. It's like, okay, right on. And so he's like, Kalinka, I want you to know that we are a team, meaning that when I grow, you grow, like I mentioned before, but we help each other. And so you can do it alone. He's like, if you want to go on your own, that's fine. But if you come with us, you will grow much faster. There's a synergy that goes around when you partner up with more people, and it's a faster growing. So he has been able to speed up so much. He's just such a big source of knowledge, and so I feel like if I need anything, he's my resource. He's there. And I was telling Tyson earlier, not only as a professional but also as a friend. Mike has become such a good friend of mine, and it's amazing. So we really look after our clients as a family, and I think that makes such a big difference, you know. And so yeah, it's I love it. I love the team, and everyone I speak to, it's like, okay, Kalinka, we are tired of hearing this from you, but it's incredible. Yeah.
So I guess a question I have is we've all been there in different stages of our career about trying to find mentorship. I know
Mhm.
I've been there many times. Sim Sahi, if you're watching this, one of the best mentors I ever had in the industry. Love you, man. And it's just one of those things that mentorship is such an important thing. So what does mentorship mean to you? How important is it to you? Because there's a lot of people watching this who are either probably new brokers, new realtors, new business
Yeah,
owners, and they hear about mentorship, but share your story. Like what were you
totally.
looking for? How'd you find it?
Yeah, I think mentorship is a key point that I keep pressing on to everyone I speak to because A, you can try to do it yourself, walk your own path, figure it all out, have your own errors, your falls, and get up by yourself and try to figure it out again. Or you can follow someone who has done it many times, a billion times, has figured out the perfect path, figured out all the codes to do it, and you can just follow them, right? So it can speed up your time, you can learn faster, it can save you money probably. And
Yep.
so the power of a mentorship to me is, you know, it's a huge value in my life, not only professionally but also in my lifestyle, like in my personal life. Following up, so I'm a mom, and you know, I look up to other moms that are like, hey, she is doing something that's right. Look at her family, what she does, not copying or judging, but in a way, what is she doing that I'm not doing that I could probably do that will make my life quality better, right? So whether, like I said, in personal life or business, I think it's having a mentor is a huge thing and will speed up a lot of time. Yeah.
So true. It's have you heard the saying before where it's like you learn so much from your mistakes, but you learn so much more from other people's mistakes?
Yes,
That's that's
yes,
one thing I
yes,
love. Like
yes, a
I don't
hundred
enjoy
percent.
making mistakes. As a business owner and we have some side businesses as well, but
Totally.
people always they always laugh like, oh, like what are some of the best mistakes you've learned that have helped you grow? I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but I've been fortunate enough that I have people that are fairly open around me that share their mistakes. So a lot of mistakes I
Totally.
could have made, I've avoided it. Like Tyson's probably single-handedly helped me avoid like 30 mistakes just because he can kind of see the trajectory that I'm on, the way that my mind's going. I think
Mm-hmm.
Tyson, we just talked about this yesterday. I was about to adopt. What was I going to do? Oh, I was going to pay for something to something that wasn't really going to have that much ROI, some tech stack increase. So I was like, yeah, like Tyson, I'm going to do this. We're going to add to our tech stack, do this. And he's like, yeah, I don't think the ROI is really going to be there. And I stopped and I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. I'm like, all right, let's just avoid this and go somewhere else. So sometimes you have that
Yeah.
voice of reason like on your shoulder. It's like, slow down, man. Like,
Totally.
this isn't really gonna help. So it's other people's mistakes are astronomically better than making mistakes yourself. Like, I'd rather not make the mistakes. I'd rather just keep on rolling.
Yeah. And for some people that might be listening, they might be like, because I remember that was a question for me in the beginning. How can I find a mentor? Like, how do you find a mentor? Do they even want to talk to you? Right? You question
Yeah.
yourself. And even a book, the power of just reading someone's biography, right? Reading how that person went through challenges, it can change your whole perspective. It has for me. I love reading or listening to audiobooks, and sometimes like, whoa, why didn't I think of that before? Right. And another thing also is putting yourself into groups or surround yourself with people that have or are doing what you want to do or where you want to be.
Yeah.
Right, that's a huge thing. So for example, my husband, every Tuesday he goes for what is it called, a winner's hike that is here in Kelowna. So one of the big life coaches, business coaches that are here, they go for hikes, and so all these people follow him and ask him questions, and just being there surrounded by these people, he comes home, he's like, oh, I have this idea today. Oh, I never thought of this before. And so if you believe in energy or color, whatever, you start accessing ideas and ways that you never thought of before, just because you surrounded yourself with people that are in a different vibe, right? Or that have access to different information, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Tyson, you're a big book reader. What's your go-to books?
Um, I just picked up this one, and I've never read it. This is 48 Laws of Power by who's this
The
one?
oh.
receipt's
Robert
still in there.
Greene. Yeah, the receipt's still in there. I haven't cracked the book open yet. I had the summary version, but I have a pile of like, you know, 20 books on my desk and another 30 behind my desk, and then I got a bookshelf. I got hundreds of books, and so
That's
yeah,
amazing.
you're exactly right in that reading allows you to access things.
Right.
And for the first 20 years of my life, I didn't read a book, right? I like faked my way through school, and we did our book reports, and that was before Google and stuff, so I couldn't even like, cheat using AI. Um, and then I really discovered that I like reading, and so it allows you to learn kind of like how to be in business, how to talk in business, how to think in business.
Totally.
I read tons of books on relationships because from my point of view is I've built a relationship business, not just a financial business. And so we're able to, help and do some unique things that way. Um, so there's a lot of areas I think that books have really helped me.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
sorry, I have a work from home thing. I got to go answer the door. Can you guys excuse me for
Oh, good.
1 sec?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we have a,
I'm actually
this is
gonna segue
live.
off that. No, yeah, it's live. I'm gonna segue off that. So I think the relationship business is such an important point. This is one of my favorite books. Kalynka, I don't know if you read Shoe Dog by Phil Knight.
No, no, I
It's
haven't.
great. It's the story of the
That's
founder of
awesome.
Nike. So
Oh, okay.
about biographies, and I love biography books, but
Yes.
um, relationship business is so important. So it's funny because from the finance side, a lot of people think it's just the quantitative. So it's just numbers crunching.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm gonna hire you as my financial planner. This is my goals. Here's my statement of accounts. Here's my net worth. What do we do?
Yeah.
But that's such a small part of the business. I
True.
thought that when I first entered the industry. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna be a numbers guy, crunch
Mm-hmm.
numbers, find investments, all
Right.
this stuff. But what I found is as our firm has grown tremendously over the last like 2, 3 years, has been relationship building. That's where we've gotten the referrals. That's
Yes.
where we've gotten the introductions.
Yes.
That's where we got the partnerships that we've gotten because we're just normal people. Like,
Right.
I find it funny. I think our industry is actually really funny that way in the finance wide. People probably won't want to hear this, but the finance world is so funny because what I notice is people have huge egos in the industry, and everyone thinks they're the best. But a lot of them do all the same stuff, and I see it from the finance side. Like, I know
Right.
what you do. I see what you do. You're not doing anything different than anybody else, but you think you're so much better, and they're so
Mm-hmm.
ego driven. So I think it's hilarious. But for us, me and Tyson, we make fun of ourselves probably 80% of the time. Like,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, I want to live a happy life. I like laughing. I like having a good time, and
Totally.
my
Oh yeah.
my career is my career. So I think that's resonating with a lot of our clients.
Yes.
And just switching gears to be work talk is just a half hour ago. I was in a meeting with Mike,
Yeah. Yeah.
with a joint client of ours. So that one is relationship heavy. So this client, they earn great money. They're in the medical space, and they're looking to buy their first home. And there's so much emotions and relationship navigating around that. So normal people come in there and be like, all right, cool. You want to get a down payment? Here's the numbers. We can make this happen.
Right. Yeah.
For me, I just kind of ask the questions where I'm like, there's going to be trade-offs. So before you buy this home, understand there's going to be trade-offs. You just got rid of your student loan that you've worked really, really hard to get rid of. You are incorporated now. We have a tax plan. So understand that if you do want to pull the trigger on this home, you're going to lose the comfort and simplicity of a small condo life. And you're going to trade that for a little bit more upkeep, and you're going to be involved a little more on the detached life. So that's gonna be one trade-off. The other trade-off is the stress you're gonna have. Be like, now I got like a $1.7 million liability on my name that I'm gonna have to work a lot harder. So the flexibility that you have is like, I don't feel like working. I want to be lazy for a week and just not go to work. That's gone too, because you're gonna have to work a lot more. So I just crack jokes because I know them. I'm like, this is what you like to do. This is what you enjoyed over the last 3-4 years. This is what your future will look like, most likely, because of this mortgage you're going to take on.
Yeah.
So we just navigate that conversation. I'm like, are you okay with the trade-off? Because one of my favorite sayings that I think a lot of people need to understand is where we live, Kalynka, you, myself, Tyson, where we live is in a first world country. So what that means is we can have anything that we want in the world, but we can't have everything that we want. So there's trade-offs you need to understand. So if you want this, you might have to lose this. And if you're okay with that trade-off, if you're okay with the trade-off, then let's proceed. So that was a relationship conversation I had with this client. And I was like, just so you know, these are the trade-offs. Are you good to move forward with losing this flexibility to get this home because you're going to have this large debt and have to service mortgage payments on a $1.7 million debt? Are you good with that? They're like, give me a date. And when they came back, like, yeah, we talked about it and we're good to go. I was like, perfect. So
Such a
that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
It's a game changer, because what you don't want to have is people just go into it blindly, and then they have all this stress, and then now it's like, oh, like I can't do the things that I enjoy doing or whatever. I think it's so important to slow down, have a relationship conversation, and kind of go from there. So do you see that often in the mortgage side?
I do, yes. And as you were talking, I remember, because me and Mike always try to understand people's story, because they come to us like, we need a mortgage and this and that, and they're kind of losing their breath and all of this. And we're like, okay, let's hear your story. Where are you right now? Where you want to be? Let's build a plan. Let's see if it makes sense for you. Let's take a look at the whole financial situation. But understanding their story, why do they want to make this move? Why is it important for them? So totally 100% taking a look at the whole picture and asking questions, because you ask them the right questions, and maybe nobody else did. Asking them the right questions that puts them into thinking like, oh, okay, this makes sense. No, this doesn't make sense for us right now, right? So
Totally.
so important. Totally.
So I'll give a snippet here. This will probably end up being one of the shorts of the reels that we'll make, but just a call to action, a PSA. If you are a physician, a dentist, a medical student who's been in debt with your student loans for several years, and the stress that's been on your mind about, I got to pay this debt off, it is not expected that your next stage of your life is home ownership, just like that. That is not an expectation. It may not even be a smart move for you at all. If the stress of this debt is on your mind all the time, the last thing you want to do is compound that by adding the stress of a home when you don't really need one. We have physicians who earn a killing and they have been renting forever. They just enjoy the flexibility of rent, and that makes sense for them. And they can bounce around, they can locum, they're in the early stages of their careers. They don't really know where they're going to be yet. So on the flip side, we've had physicians and dentists, and I think there's a chiro just a couple of years ago that ended up buying a home right off the bat, and they kind of anchored themselves into a situation where they didn't want to, and we advised against it right off the bat, because to that point, it's all about relationships. So based off what I know of you, I don't think this makes sense because XYZ reason. But sometimes people get swayed by family, by outside influences. Realtors, we see that sometimes the realtors like, you have to get this, it's FOMO, like this is never going to come up again, and then they buy it and then they regret it a little bit later. So there's a lot of external factors that happen, but just understand and don't lose that pain point of how stressed you were when you had all this debt. How stressed were you when you had a $350,000 line of credit on your name because you're going to med school? Now, how much more stressed are you going to be if you have a $1.7 million loan that you got to pay for pretty much the entirety of your main income earning years? So think about that for a second and think if that makes sense for you, or would it feel better to move slower, build your assets up first, and then make that plunge if need be? So if you're a physician, a dentist, chiro, physio, RMT, anyone out there that has a large student loan, it is not an expectation for you just to proceed into home ownership. It's not the natural next step of your life. Slow down. Don't listen to external factors. Listen to yourself. And if you need help, obviously talk to your professionals, talk to us, and we can kind of guide you through and create a roadmap for you. But a lot of people jump into things without understanding the trade-offs that it entails, and then they end up regretting it a little bit later, from my experience.
Yep, no, that's totally right. And we have that conversation with clients, and I tell a lot of them, hey, it's okay to rent and be a millionaire. You can still have the habits, you can still save and invest, you can still build your career, you can do a lot of things. And then especially if you're in one of those high demand professions that Vishal talked about, is, Canada's short on doctors. And so if they're going to pay you twice as much to go and be a doctor in Manitoba for 5 years, 10 years, and you don't have a family yet and you're just starting out, I mean, why wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah,
Go north, make like 3x what you could make in the lower mainland. Like,
yeah,
who cares? Like what the loyalty of doing this and that, like it doesn't matter. Obviously the trade-offs, like Kalynka was saying before, mentorship, like all those things are considerations. But I 100% agree with Tyson. If you're getting, bonuses or better comp, by just lower cost of living as well by moving elsewhere, who cares? Peace out, take off, make your money. You can fly back. You might get your flight canceled from WestJet, like I did, or Flair, whatever that may be. But if you can avoid that annoyingness, you're good to go, and it makes a whole lot of sense for your career.
yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
Crazy. Clink, I got a question for you to put you on the spot.
Uh-oh.
So, with people with mortgages in general, just think of all the people that have contacted you, had questions with you. What do they misunderstand the most in the world of mortgages?
Um, I think the process, right? Understanding that there's a process. So a client that comes up to mind is first time home buyer, really wanted to buy a house, didn't have down payment in place, had a lot of debt that we had to consolidate first before, and it was like a 2 months process before he was able to buy a house. So I think understanding the process, and one thing that I always try to do is educate our clients because people don't learn this in school. People, they learn as they go. And so if I can be that book of knowledge to, hey, let me educate you on how this process works, right? So
Hmm.
I think, yeah, one of the biggest challenges is knowing the process, how it works. And we will help you throughout the entire process. We'll figure out a plan. We'll put you in the best scenario, keep most money in your pocket, help you grow in real estate. But there's a process. Let me explain to you how that works. Yeah, that's one thing that came to mind right off the bat.
Love it. Love it. So, further on that, let us know what is the process. So
So
I guess I'll
yeah,
preface this by saying, just imagine like I'm a first-time home buyer. I know I want a home. I found a place that I like. I saw it on MLS or REW, whatever it's called. And I'm like, Klinka, I like this place. I haven't put an offer in yet, but like I just want to
yeah.
get ready to buy it. What is that process for the majority of people out there?
Totally. I think the number one thing is we need to look at the down payment. Have you talked about down payment? Do you have saved for a down payment? If you don't, let me put you in touch with somebody that can help you grow your down payment, can help you structure that for you. But we'll have a phone call with that client. We'll explain the steps to them. But the number one thing is get in touch with us. We'll help you explain that process. But down payment is the number one thing that one of the most important things that lenders will look at, and clients don't normally understand. They're like, if I have the money, or sometimes they do, if I have the money, why do I need 90 days bank statement? Why do they need to see that, right? So we explain that to them over the phone. And then, of course, the credit, we will take a deep dive into your credit. Let's look if you're doing that alone, if there's a co-signer. If you're first time home buyer, generally there's a strong co-signer that comes in place as well. So we explain that to the client. And then we'll structure that loan. We'll see how much they can get approved for, and set them off with a budget on a path that will lead them to a successful purchase. So typically that's the process. Through that, we also explain to them that we need, X amount of days to get that financing arranged once everything is aligned. So we set all those expectations so they don't go blind into a purchase, right? And then the best part, Tyson and Vishal, is that we will monitor the mortgage for that client for all the coming years. And so, if we see an opportunity for that client where, the market is changing, interest rates are changing, or there's a big change in their family, there's a baby coming, or, they need money for renovations, we will, of course, structure, a remortgage, or we structure a term for that client that meets those goals, right? So we'll continue a relationship with that client, not only set off a mortgage and off you go, but we'll monitor that mortgage and keep that relationship with the client, which is so important in every industry. And I'm sure in your industry as well, maintaining a good relationship with every client.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the relationship part, it counters the long-term planning piece, because a lot of it on the advisor side too is we're going to meet with you and we're going to say this is your retirement plan, but it's like retirement might be 30 or 40 years away for you. There's a lot that's going to
Right.
change, and it at the pace of the standard of living, it can change year to year. And so what was important last year might not be important this year because things cost more, or, you've been downsized at your job, or like you said, you've had, new additions to your family and all kinds of things. So I love that you guys support that. And that's kind of one of the reasons why we really like you guys, is the ongoing support, because there
Totally.
is a segment of the market that they'll do a deal for the client and then they'll never contact the client again. And it's very
Right.
common.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Totally.
we've had clients reach out, send an email that say, hey, the bank never told me this.
That's
I didn't
right.
know this. And
That's
it's
right.
like, so yeah, well, we
Well, I
do
think a
that.
lot of people are going to see that now, actually, with the
Yeah.
ongoing support. So I think one of the differences people will really start to see now that we're in a downwards rate cycle, from the broker's perspective, sorry, for the mortgage broker's perspective, is they'll really see the difference when rates are coming down. Because when rates were going up, everybody was hearing from the bank, like, hey, your trigger point's going to be coming up. Hey, your trigger point's going to be coming up. Lock into a fixed rate, lock into
Mm-hmm.
a fixed rate. And they heard from them constantly. Now that the rate cycles are going down, no one's hearing anything from their bankers, because they're like, hey, when rates were going up, my payments, if you're in a variable, were going up, pretty quickly, or at least they were educating me on it. Like, hey, you can lock in now. But now that the rates are going down, shouldn't they
Right.
be lowering my payments, or how does that work? But they're not hearing from anybody. So that's one of the big differences
Wow.
why we like working with the brokers instead of the mortgage specialists, is the ongoing support. That I love the fact you monitor the rates. So when rates are going down, it's pretty quick if you have the system, which I know the Mike and I talk about tech all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know you guys have a system where it's like, all right, cool, let's see everyone that's in a variable, and let's run the numbers and see if any of them can get a lowering of their payment. Cool, let's talk about that, and then loop in the portfolio planning team, and then we can talk about, hey, you
Totally.
freed up $200 a month. Why not put that into your RSP and reduce your tax burden? So there's so many different things that you can do, which is really cool. But a couple questions on the mortgage, or sorry, the buying journey. So Tyson, I'm going to queue you up a question in a second here. But one thing that I see misunderstood a lot is when it comes to the funds going to like the developer. So say you're buying a brand new townhouse or a condo. A lot of people don't understand the mechanisms of how that money gets there. They think I'm just buying this place. The bank is really buying it and you're supplementing it. So when you go through the whole process that Kalynka was talking about, you get pre-approved. The bank says, yes, we like this property, because that can also happen where the bank, you'll like the
Yes.
property, but the bank will look at it and be like, we don't like it enough to lend on it. And if you don't have the subjects for financing in there, it's tough. During the COVID time when people were like, oh, you can't even put subject to finance, and if you do, you're not going to get this place. We're telling our clients, good, don't get the place, because what they don't understand is you're signing a contract that I'm going to buy this home, and the only protection you
Mm-hmm.
have is subject to financing. So if you say I'm going to buy this home, cross off subject to financing, and you put your offer in, you're now in a contract. So even if the bank says, hey, we don't like this place, Vishal, for it's a floodplain area, and we don't like it, we're not going to lend on it, you still have to come with the money yourself. So what's your options now? Now you're stuck in private, or some predatory rates. So that's one side of it. And let's say you go through everything and now it comes time to actually buying the place. What happens is that 20% of your home is not buying the home. The bank gives, let's say, $1 million to the lawyers that you pick. So your lawyers will have $1 million in their trust account, and then you'll bring your 20% and they'll add that to the trust account, and then they wire that to the developer's lawyers, and they use that to pay off the place. Then they transfer the title, and then you're good to go. So that's kind of the last place of once you talk to your broker does all that heavy lifting, gets everything done, sends it to your lawyers, and the lawyers are the last one that are going to be, all right, cool, Vishal, you give me the 20%, T, you give me the remainder, bang, 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 here's some paperwork, send it over to entrust the developer gets the money, transfer the title, now the house is yours. But if you don't put subject to financing or the proper subjects in there and the bank says, I don't like this property, and you only have that 20% in there, you are liable for the rest of it. So where are you going to get that other 80% of the money? So that's one thing that you always be cautious of when buying a home. And then Tyson, if you can kind of educate the people on, Kalynka alluded to a little bit about 90 days. Let them know, like, say your down payment is coming from your RSP and your FHSA. What are the rules around that? How do you navigate around having that money from the registered accounts?
Yeah, it's so brand new to Canada is the First Home Savers Account, the FHSA, right? Terrible acronym. It really like flows off the tongue. So what this is the government's effort to help young first home buyers build a down payment so they could be competitive and go out into the marketplace. But the challenge is that everybody is going to try and do this. And so it's still competitive for first home buyers and young people trying to get into their first home. But you're allowed to put $8,000 a year into your first home savers account and up to a maximum of $40,000. And that's the current rules. The rollout of this is very similar to when I watched them roll out the tax-free savings account. That was in 2009. And it took about 4 or 5 years for people to really catch on to it because we hadn't had a new program roll out in Canada for a long time. And so with this down payment builder fund, I'm talking to people still this year. It's been out for a year, and some people have never heard of it. Some people don't know how
Wow.
it works. Yeah. And the challenge is they don't know some of their optionality. They don't know how to maximize it. They don't know how to use it within their plan. So you got to talk to your financial advisor and see how it works within your plan. The second part to that is they have increased the amount that you can pull out of your RRSPs for your home buyers plan or your HBP. So it went from I think it was $35,000. It's now $60,000 that you can pull out. The differences are though, is that with the FHSA, you don't have to repay the $40,000 you used for your down payment. With the RSP home buyers plan, you do have to repay it, and the schedule to repay that is 15 years. So if you pull out, $60,000, you just divide that by 15 years, and then divide that by 12, you get your payment that you have to pay back. And so that is on top of your mortgage payment that you're paying. And so yes, you can get into the home. Yes, you can afford it to purchase, but then we have to look at cash flow. And cash flow is, it either allows you to live your lifestyle or it constrains your lifestyle based on all of
Mm-hmm.
the responsibilities you've signed up for. Um, but it is a good thing for people who have maxed out their RSPs and have now maxed out their FHSA, which, in a couple of years you'll be able to do. Now you have a sizable down payment. You can go out into the marketplace and buy something and hopefully have a lower mortgage payment.
Perfectly said. And I think a lot of people don't understand that stuff when they think about home ownership. They think I just gotta have the cash on hand. That's not necessarily the case. Like, yeah, you do need to have your cash on hand, but there's a bunch of different ways you can have it. So, if you're a T4 employee, forget loyalty, try and find an employer that will match your RSP. That's probably if you're young and you're trying to build your wealth. That should be one of your biggest priorities is, hopefully you don't need group benefits all that much. So you're less looking for benefits and long-term disability, but more so looking for RSP matching or stock options or something that will help you accumulate your wealth quickly. And make sure you look at the rules of once it's vested, can you transfer it and use it on your own? What are those options? So always make sure you look at your benefits plan from your employer and find an employer or just ask them in an interview, what does this look like? Because you can accumulate money pretty quickly when it comes to a group employer matching your RSP and then taking that money and using it for your first time home. So there's a bunch of different strategies to get there. The most important thing is if you don't know how to get that on your own, make sure you reach out to the professionals, whoever you know. Hopefully, us. That'd be great. But if not, just reach out, because if you don't know the answers, that's okay. What's not okay is not allowing yourself to get those answers. So,
Yeah.
I think next week we'll probably deep dive a bit more into like RSP catch up room. I know that's questions that we've had. It was funny when we posted the clip. Someone commented is asking about RSP catch up room, and they're like, honestly, I've never had these conversations before, so I'm learning so much, which is fantastic. So I'm glad that that the whole point is working. So feel free, whatever platform you guys are watching this on, feel free to drop comments or DM us and just ask if there's topics that you want covered. If it's not a topic that we know, we'll just bring someone in that can discuss it. So I know that we want to have the lawyers in to talk about wills and estates. We were going to have the team at Alliance join us today, but they're actually in court. He called me this morning. He said we got called into court, so they're gone like suits. But hopefully next week we're golfing. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to move the day, I guess, because we're golfing on Wednesday at a charity event
Right.
next
We'll have
Wednesday.
to figure that out. I
We'll
think what
figure
I'd
that
like to
out.
do in one of the future episodes too is I had a gentleman from one of the donor advised funds on my podcast, and we were talking about something that you just hit on, was the shared ownership program. And so long-term employees, executives, high paid, senior members, that they max out their what's called a SOP program, or their shared ownership program, for their bonus. How do you get that money out? And using a strategy that's in combination with a donor advised fund, we can actually help them get a lot of money out tax free. And it's a really interesting strategy. So maybe we'll have him on in the future and talk about some of that stuff.
I'm always curious what's interesting to us and boring to everybody else. We'll see.
Yes, that's right. We get nerded out.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Awesome. I think we're at time now, which is perfect. Kalynka, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully this won't be the last time we see you. So feel free to pop in whenever. Maybe we'll get you and Mike to start debating each other on mortgages, and we'll just kind of sit back and relax, right? So
Yeah, totally.
it's always good. And make sure you follow her on social media as well. Kalynka, what's your Instagram? Just so they can find you.
Kalynka Mortgages. Just my name, Mortgages. Kalynka Mortgages. Yeah.
Easy. Super
Yes.
easy. I'm sure you can also just jump on a portfolio planning and search followers or following, or you'll see her in our posts as well. So
I'll be there.
yeah, give her a follow. Drop your questions if you have questions, because our main point is to bring the conversations about money right to you through your screen at your fingertips. So we want to make it as simple as possible, as easy as possible for you to go down the path of increasing your net worth and becoming high net worth. Because for our clients at our firm, that's our kind of internal mandate, is we want to make you turn high net worth. And what that means for you may be different than everybody else around you. So put the work in to find out what that means for you. So that being said, thank you everyone for jumping on, joining us. Thank you, Kalynka. Thank you, Tyson. Tyson will
Thank
probably talk to you in
you.
5-10 minutes anyways, but it's always good to talk to you guys.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. This
Thanks
was a
for coming
pleasure.
on.
Have a
Appreciate it.
good one. Of course. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye.